All right, now let's have a look at question number 2, which is from kinematics. Let's see what it says. The fixed points A, B, and C lie in a straight line on a horizontal road. Okay. At time t equals to 0, a motorbike passes through A with speed 5 meters per second. From A, the motorbike accelerates uniformly until it reaches B with a speed of v meters per second. The motorbike takes t1 seconds to travel from A to B. Okay. From B, the motorbike decelerates uniformly until it comes to rest at C. The motorbike takes t2 seconds to travel from B to C. Alright, sketch a speed time graph for the motion of the motorbike as it moves from A to C. Okay, so now in order to sketch the speed time graph, we're going to read all this again. But first, let's draw the xy axis here first. So on the vertical axis, obviously, we're going to be taking speed in meters per second. On the horizontal axis, we're going to be taking time, which is supposed to be in seconds. Make sure to label this, don't take this lightly. Does it say speed time or yeah, it says speed time. So here is speed in meters per second. Okay, now let's go back to the beginning. At time t equals to 0, the motorbike passes through A with a speed of 5 meters per second. So that means it's not going to start from 0. It's actually going to start from a point above 0, and that point is 5 to be precise. Now it accelerates uniformly until it reaches B with a speed of v meters per second. So that means we're going to have an upward sloping line to show uniform acceleration, and we will have an upward sloping line until it reaches a point at which the speed is v meters per second. And how long did it take to do that? That's also mentioned. Let's have a look. So the speed it reaches is v, the time that it takes is t1. So that means this is v and this is t1. Let's see what happens next. So we've taken care of this part, we've taken care of this part, we've taken care of this part. From B, the motorbike decelerates uniformly until it comes to rest at C. Okay, so that means from this point onwards, there's going to be a downward sloping line up until the velocity is 0. Why? Because the object is coming to rest. Okay, so we've dealt with this. The motorbike takes t2 seconds to travel from B to C. So that means this time, only this time, is t2 seconds. Okay, and if this time is t2 seconds, so that means the total time is t1 plus t2. t1 seconds to reach a velocity of v and t2 seconds to come to rest. So that means the total time taken is t1 plus t2. And that's it. You don't necessarily have to show this. This was just for your sake, for your understanding. Now I'm going to erase it. And here we go. In the first part, we were just supposed to draw a speed time graph. We've done that. And that's it. Now let's move to the next part. Part B. Let's see what part B says. Part B says the distance AB is 132 meters and the distance BC is 136 meters. Okay. Find in terms of V an expression for T1 and T2. Okay. So because the question asked us to draw a speed time graph, so I'm not going to mess this diagram, but I will be obviously using this diagram to answer part B. Now do keep in mind that the area under the speed time graph is equal to the distance traveled. Okay, and the question has given us the distance traveled from A to B, that was this part of the journey. What's that equal to? That is equal to 132 meters. Okay, and then the distance traveled from B to C, that's this part of the graph, which is equal to what? Which is equal to 136. Okay, now if you look at the first part, and also what are we asked to do? We're supposed to find an expression for V in we're supposed to find in terms of V an expression for T1 and T2. Okay, so let's have a look at B part 1. Now, we will first see what shape it is that we're dealing with. We know that the area under the speed time graph gives us the distance traveled, but what shape is it that we're dealing with? So this is 5 and this is V, and these are two parallel lengths. Okay, and we're dealing with a trapezium because we have two parallel lengths and it's a four-sided figure. That means it's a trapezium. So area of trapezium would be half into sum of parallel lengths, that would be 5 plus V, into the height, and because the lengths are vertical, the height would be the horizontal distance across the two. So that means 132, which is basically the area, will be equal to 1 upon 2 into sum of parallel lengths, that would be 5 plus V, into the height, which is T1. Now do bear in mind that you're supposed to make T1 the subject. So we cross multiply, we have 264, which is equal to 5 plus V into T1. Let's make T1 the subject. So T1 is equals to 264 over 5 plus V. And that's it, job done. Now part 2. Let's see what part 2 says. Part 2 says, once again, we have to find an expression for v, but this time in terms, this time we have to find an expression for t2. Okay. So remember I said earlier that this duration is t2. This will come in handy. Why? Because the shape that we're dealing with is a right angle triangle. And once again, we're given the distance, which is equal to the area under the graph. So area is equals to half into base into height. So half into base, which is t2, into the height, which is v, is equals to area. That's equal to 136. What do? We cross multiply and we make t2 the subject. t2 is equals to 136 times 2. That's 272 divided by v. And there you go. Here we have an expression for t2 in terms of v. And here we have found an expression for t1 in terms of v. Okay. Now let's see in the next part. I'm pretty sure there's something to connect it to. Maybe we're given the total distance or total time. Okay, we're given the total time. Given that the motorbike takes 28 seconds to travel from A to C. Okay, so what are we given? We are given the total time. Find the value of v. So we found t1, we found t2. Now we're given the total time. Is this part? This is part C, I believe. Yeah, this is part C. So that means t1 plus t2 is equals to 28. What's t1? t1 is 264 upon 5 plus v. t2 is 272 upon v, which is equal to 28. So we're definitely going to head towards a quadratic equation. First of all, we'll have to take the LCM, which would be 5 plus v into v, and this will be 264v plus 272 into 5 plus v, which is equal to 28. Okay, now there's a decent amount of simplification that's required. So we have 272 times 5, that's equal to 1360, plus 264, that's equal to 1624. Okay, so that means what we're dealing with is something like this. We have 1624v plus, no, wait a minute. Should not have skipped a step. Let's just do it step by step. 272 times 5, that's equal to 1360. 1360 plus 272v equals to 28 times 5v plus v square. Okay, now 264 and 272 obviously we can add. That's exactly what I'm going to do. 264 plus 272, that's equal to 536v plus 1360 plus 140 equals to 140v, because 28 times 5 is 140, plus 28 v square. Okay, now let's move all the terms to the left hand side and see, or on the right hand side actually, and see what we're left with. So we have 28v square, 140 minus 536, 140 minus 536, that's equal to negative 396, negative 396v minus 1360. Now we can clearly see that we can divide everything by, 4. So let's do that. Let's divide the entire equation by 4, left hand side as well as the right hand side. So we have 7v square minus 99v minus 340 equals to 0. So obviously we're going to need the quadratic formula over here. So let's use the quadratic formula. V is equals to minus 99 plus minus square root of b square. I think we can do middle term breaking, but that's going to be very difficult to find out the relevant terms. So b square minus 4 into 7 into minus 340 upon 2a, that means 2 times 7. Okay, now I'm going to skip a few steps over here just for the sake of saving some time, and I'm going to give you the 2 final answers that you will get. Okay, and then I want you guys to think about a couple of things for a minute. So v equals to 17, or v is equals to negative 20 over 7. Now remember, v here is not representing velocity, it's actually representing speed. Okay, because the question categorically said speed. Okay, every time the question talked about v, it was basically telling us speed. Okay, now we have gotten two values, one is positive, one is negative. So which one are we going to take? The final answer will obviously be the one that's positive, and that is v is equals to 17. And that's the answer to part C. Now, do we have, yeah, I think we have plenty of space here, so let's do it here only. Let's have a look at part D. So part D says, find the deceleration of the motorbike. Okay. So once again, we will have to use our graph. So let's copy this. Let's paste it here. Deceleration basically means, okay, this is not the graph that I copied, but anyway, this will do the job. So deceleration basically means that the gradient of this line. Okay, now notice we already know what v is equals to. V is equals to 17, and we can find out t1 and t2. Okay, how so? Here's how. So t2, and technically we just need t2 actually, because we just want the change in x. So this was t2, remember the question told us, so technically we just need t2. So t2 was equal to 272 upon v. We found out in b part 1 or b part 2. Now we can use the value of v equals to 17 to find out t2, and t2 turns out to be 16. Now what is deceleration? Deceleration is basically the change in speed, which is 17, divided by the change in time, which is 16, and that's it. This is basically your deceleration right here. So you can either leave it as this, or you can write it as 1.0625 meter per second square. Okay, and remember, because the question asked us for deceleration, we will not put a minus sign. Technically, if the question asked us for acceleration, we would have put a minus sign, but it's deceleration, so we don't have to put the minus sign ourselves. It's understood that it's negative. So that's the end of question number 2.